The year is 2013. A 7-day FPS challenge was hosted. The rules were quite self-explanatory. Make a first-person shooter game in 7 days. The game jam was noticed by many people, and one of them was Piotr Ivanitsky, alongside his friends. Despite having little to no game dev experience, they decided to enter the game jam for shits and giggles. And after getting inspired by the Flash game, Time for Cat, in which time only moves when the player moves the cat, as well as the music video for the song Bad Motherfucker by Biting Elbows, they had a main gimmick and selling point for the game. Time only moves when you move. So the team made a prototype for the game and named it SUPERHOT, and people loved it. Well, I guess we're making a full version now. Fast forward to August of 2016. Full version of the game was released, and well, I guess it made a little bit of noise online. Okay, it's safe to say that everyone at least heard about the game at the time. But 2016 was 7 years ago. Games changed and so did people's taste in them. FPS games are all about fast-paced action. This will seem slow. Sure, it has a cool gimmick, but is that all it has? Can a game like that, made by a small team from Poland, really be called the most innovative shooter in years? You boot up your PC and notice an unread message. It's from your friend, who says he found the most innovative shooter he played in years. You download it and decide to give it a go, but after 5 levels you're kicked out of the game. After talking to your friend about your experience with the game, you'll find out that everyone gets different levels, planting the idea that the game isn't what it seems. You also find out that it was most likely the game's security system, which blocked your access and kicked you out. But it doesn't matter because your friend has a new version of the game, so you continue playing. However, after playing for a little bit, you're kicked out again. You complain to your friend and he sends you, yet again, a new version of the game. But the problem with this one is that it's password protected. So you do what anyone does when they're bored out of their mind and just dick around. By doing so, you somehow guess the password. You continue playing, but something strange happens. Whoever is kicking you out decides to confront you and dox you, showing you in the game where you live. You try to go to vent and tell your Discord friend about it, but the Matrix keeps editing your messages, destroying the only friendship you ever had. However, they are not done. They send you to the tutorial level. I guess they saw your gameplay and thought you needed it. Matrix also calls you a dog. They let you play for a little bit more, then they feel the need to greet you before sending you to the next level. I'm not gonna even say anything. I know what you're thinking about. Once again you continue playing the game, like a good little addict you are, while being called a dog. You get doxed, again. This time, however, Mr. Matrix noticed that doxing doesn't work on you. Probably because you're immune to it, since you already know where you live. So he decides to take a direct approach and send you a DM instead. He explains that you're way in over your head, that you don't know what you're doing, and that you're not wanted. Man, if I wanted to have a conversation like that, I would just call my parents. He also makes you promise you're not going to play the game again. And you keep that promise. For about 2 seconds. because you're on that gambling man grind set, and you know if you give up, you're never gonna get that jackpot. You get about 5 games in before once again you get found out. At this point, you know the drill. Get kicked, get doxed, ignore it, continue playing. But this time, Mr. Matrix makes you walk into your own room and punch yourself. You feel the pain in your head. That moment right there showed that you weren't just shooting at the random NPC red guys. You were actually killing people. There is blood on your hands. And whoever is behind that red text wants you to know it. So he takes control over your computer and makes sure that the only thing you can click is the quit button. At that point, you are forced to close the actual game. When you open the game again, you send a message to your friend, but before it gets sent, it gets changed to only say SUPERHOT over and over again. You try to send a new one, but the same thing happens. That keeps happening until you type the words, "I just want to get back into the game," where the red text interrupts your conversation with the "as you wish." Now, you're stuck in a jail cell. The red text informs you that the system will set you free, and you willingly make a first step into merging your mind with the said system.
Super hot. 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 Super.
The system gives you a new ability called Hot Switch. Hot Switch allows you to transfer your consciousness into a different body. You just yoink the enemy's body and destroy your old one in the process. After playing some more to prove your worth, you get another message. The system makes you repeat the words, "Mind is software, bodies are disposable, the system will set you free," and the final one, "I will hot switch into the core." You reach the final level where you have to survive the waves of enemies and hot switch repeatedly into this red pyramid, which is the core. By hot switching into it, you start downloading your mind into it. After the download finishes, you have one last thing you need to do. Dispose of your physical body and truly become one with the core. After all, mind is software, and bodies are disposable. So with a gun in your hand, you complete the last step and become one with the SUPERHOT virus. To give a little explanation, basically SUPERHOT is a virus that is trying to become an AI by using the people's mind, so the text "become one of us" tells you that you're not the only one that went through all that. You repeatedly getting kicked out is actually the developers trying to stop you from making that mistake. The story is, in my opinion, very interesting, albeit a little bit confusing. I noticed after beating the game and doing some research online that it was developers that were trying to keep you away from the virus at first. I just thought it was the system or whoever was behind it changing its mind. The story is pretty meta, and I do like it, but I do wish it was explained a little bit better. There is also a VR game that gives you an alternate view of the story, as well as a sequel called SUPERHOT Mind Control Delete. But I'm not familiar with the story of those games, so maybe they clear up some stuff, but that's enough about the story. I want to get into the... To put it bluntly, SUPERHOT's gameplay is nothing short of brilliant. The before mentioned main gimmick of the game is time only moves when you move. This gimmick, while nothing short of amazing, gave devs a pretty big challenge, and that's balance. Time manipulation is often used in games as a helping tool, usually during platforming sections or to help you aim a little bit better. and when it is used as a big finisher type thing, it has a pretty big cooldown. That is because, well, it's fucking broken. So how did they overcome that challenge? By doing a damn good job with level design and making everyone die in one shot, including the player. You usually won't find yourself with a ton of room to move, making every step you take matter. For one wrong turn, one wrong step, and you find yourself facing an undodgeable bullet, only being able to see it move towards you in slow motion. All of this allows SUPERHOT to feel completely different from any FPS game. For your firearm needs, you have 3 options at your and your enemy's disposal. Full auto, a shotgun, and a pistol. And when you run out of bullets, and you will, you can just yeet that sucker at them to stagger them for a short period of time. Or long, depends if you're moving or not. Besides your firearm, you have 3 types of melee weapons. A baseball bat, a crowbar that would make Joker himself proud, and a katana. Wait, so bullets, katana, can you cut those? Absolutely, you can cut bullets with a katana. You can also block them by throwing your weapons, adding even more flavor to this already 5-star dish that will make even the critic from Ratatouille jizz himself. Speaking of throwing stuff, any black colored object you can see, you can pick up and throw at the enemies, adding even more ways to kill red guys. I've briefly mentioned helping tools in games, and SUPERHOT has one as well. Look, I get it, gamers aren't born equal. Some of us beat Halo Combat Evolved and some of us haven't. Yeah, this was just a shameless plug. Now, you would think that tool would probably be making time stop while allowing you to move freely, and that would be the most obvious choice, which is why I am so glad that I didn't go with that. Hot Switch is an ability which allows you to switch places with your enemies when the situation gets, well, hot. You possess an enemy of your choosing, and then the ability gets on cooldown. Your old body then just explodes. This tool, while strong, still fits amazingly into the game. It plays into the wrong step in your dead game loop perfectly, since possessing a wrong body can result into an immediate game over. Oh, and before I forget, when talking to a friend or read text in the story mode, to respond you actually have to press keys on your keyboard, which is a small but such a cool thing to add. Besides the story mode, there's Endless mode and challenges, both pretty self-explanatory. Endless, you survive for as long as you can, and challenges are just same levels from the story mode, but more, well, challenging. For an example, in Katana Challenge, you can only use a katana. You can also play a 2D original Doom-like version of the game called SUPERHOT over on itch.io. Link in the description, and while you're going at it, consider subscribing, it means a lot to me. But not all is rainbows and unicorns. There is some... Unfortunately, the game isn't perfect. My personal biggest issue with the game is the price. $25 for a story mode that takes around 2 to 3 hours to beat, and if you decide to play challenges, that will add another maybe 6 hours, so 25 USD for around 9 to 10 hours of game time if you really decide to stretch it. That's in my opinion not really worth it, so I would suggest either waiting for a discount or getting it at resellers like Instant Gaming. I got SUPERHOT for less than €4 over there. Again, link in the description. As for the gameplay side, there isn't much for me to say in terms of critique. Sometimes when you throw a weapon it looks like it hit the enemy, but it didn't. But that's in my experience not that common, and that's about it. The other thing I wanted to bring up is the controversy from 2021. Out of nowhere, 5 years after the game's release, game devs decided to cut a section of the game because it promoted self-harm. This is the same game in which you kill people, and I'm not gonna even sugarcoat it, kill yourself. You shot yourself in the head to combine your mind and the SUPERHOT virus. So, by their own logic, should the entire endgame part of the story be scrapped as well? This got the entire community up in arms, screaming censorship, censorship. To be honest, it wouldn't be such an issue if they replaced that section with a different one, instead of just cutting the content altogether. And that is, if they really felt that strong about it, which in my opinion they shouldn't. It's just a silly situation they put themselves in. But anyways, I feel it's time for a... To wrap everything up, SUPERHOT really is an absolute gem of the game. The story aged better than it has any right to be, with the whole becoming a part of a hive mind that spews the same 4 things while claiming they're here to free you and your mind, while also demanding you act a certain way and do certain actions. And to put a nice bow at the end, both usually include the movie Matrix in the conversation. The art style and the gameplay work amazingly well together to give you a unique and incredibly fun experience. How you decide to approach levels is up to you. If you want to go for an unarmed run, you probably can do it. Challenges are also a very nice addition to the game, letting you use your weapons and tools that you maybe didn't have enough time to use or got the opportunity to use more, for an example a katana. There's also a kill terrorist, which is a platform to share your runs or to see other people's approach to certain levels. The thing about that is that the footage is not in slow-mo, letting you see how your enemies see your movements in a way. The main problem that I have with the game isn't even related to the gameplay. The price is something I have a hard time trying to wrap my head around. I will not try to justify it. The game is 25 USD, while being pretty darn short, even if you decide to 100% it. Overall, the game is really good. And while I had an absolute blast playing the game, I wouldn't say it justifies the price. But that's also up to you. Perhaps you feel differently about it, and that's fine. All of this is just my subjective opinion, but that is all. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. And if you feel like stroking my ego, follow me on the app formerly known as Twitter. Take care.